Hi, and welcome once again to Ivy English. I'm Karen.
And I'm Wesley.
Today is January 12th, and we're on page 36 in your magazines. And today we're going to talk about the environment.
好，今天我们要谈的跟环保有关。
Now don't go, oh, that stuff again, because there's a really interesting and quite convincing article that we're going to read about today.
好，大家不要想，哎呦，又是环保啊！这篇文章其实会提到一些各位可能没有想到的关于环保的一些层面。
Our title is The Catch-22 of Net Zero Emissions.
好，中文标题是净零排放的两难处境。好，这个 Net Zero Emissions 就是净零排放，那个 Net 就是净值啊，所以 Net Zero 就是净值是零，也叫净零简称啊的一种排放。那这个 Catch-22 是很有趣的一个而且很好用的一个字哈，它指的是一种这个无法解决的困境啊。那通常它这个当然是从一个很有名的小说，同名的小说哈，是 Joseph Heller 写的一个小说啊里面来的。好，那这个 Joseph 就 Joseph 好了 Heller 就是 Heller 好，那这个小说在美国文化里面是非常重要的一个小说哈，很多人就算没读过这个小说，他也一定听过这个小说啊，所以你把这个小说记起来，记得他的名字，好，说不定哪一天你跟美国人聊天的时候，他就会觉得很好玩，跟你聊天很有趣啊。那 Catch-22 situation 它基本上就是一个an impossible situation， 它基本上就是一个逻辑的困境，就是说有一个规定说你必须先完成 A， 好，你才能够去做 B 这件事情。但是呢，除非你先做到 B， 你才有可能做到 A。
That's right. Okay.
所以就没办法了。Yeah.
The example in the book is they want to send some people out on a dangerous mission.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy wants to get out of it by claiming he's insane.
Mm-hmm.
So he wants to be certified as insane. But the thing is that you have to be insane in order to do this mission. So they will certify you as it's insane. You think that you can get out of the army, you can get out of doing this mission. But in fact, you have to be insane in order to do the mission. So if you're certified insane, then you're very suitable to do this mission.
Yeah. 所以这个他小说里面呢，他是一个这个轰炸机的这个机员啊，这个一个
bombardier。
对，他是这个驾驶轰炸机的。那其实二次大战的时候，轰炸机伤亡率非常的高。
Yeah.
我记得我看过，好像二次大战里面所有的军种、所有的部队里面，伤亡率最高的是轰炸机。
No surprise.
因为轰炸机它本身的防卫比较小，没什么防卫力量，然后呢高高在上，飞机又很大，底下的人就把它当靶来打。
A clear target.
而且一打到呢，整架飞机上的人统统会完蛋啊！所以他为了要避免去这个从事这任务呢，那他发现有一条这个 Catch-22 这条军规里面说呢，如果你能证明你是疯子的话，你就不用去出任务了啊。可是问题是，你要去出那个任务呢，你要是疯子才会去做那种对，才会去做那种事情。所以如果说你证明了自己是疯子的，那其实更证明你可以去适合做这个任务啊，去从事这个任务。所以就像我刚刚讲，你必须要先完成 A 才能做 B， 但是你要做到 B， 你必须要先做 A。Yeah.
So that's basically the idea behind it. Now, this is a really iconic book in American culture, but I'm sure that a lot of people haven't read it, or some people who have tried have not gotten through it. It is a very difficult book to read because it's put together from pieces. It's like a montage, M-O-N-T-A-G-E. M-O-N-T-A-G-E, montage. That means it's put together like a quilt from different pieces. And you really have to pay attention to who all the characters are and the different storylines. It is really challenging. I listened to it as an audiobook. I don't know if I would have gotten through it as a paper book, but it took me a long time to get through it, and I really had to pay attention. I'm very glad I read it, and I also got another book by the same author that was recommended because he's talking about the everyday problems that we have, for example, working in a bureaucracy, like in a government institution or in a big company. All of the bureaucracy and all of the crazy stuff that happens, all the machinations of the people and how they kind of work against their own people. I mean, all that stuff, all of those biduan that you see in organizations, they're all in this book. So reading it, if you can get through it, because it's so challenging, can be very satisfying.
好，那首先提一下，刚刚这个 Karen 老师讲的 montage 就是我们讲的蒙太奇啊。那另外呢，这本书呢，我也是很推荐大家看啊。那的确也不是那么容易看，但是你如果看懂的话，其实非常的幽默 我自己觉得啦，就你会看到一些地方，觉得真好玩啊，因为他其实写的就像刚刚 Karen 老师讲的，里面有那种官场百态哈，还有还有部队里面那种美国的部队啦，那里面其实我觉得所有的部队都一样，就是那种阶级啊，那种僵化的思考啊。
And sometimes people will do something to help the enemy against your own people because they can make money.
有的时候甚至于可能会做一些帮助敌国的事情，因为他们可以从中获利啊，所以非常好看的、非常有趣的一个故事。但我自己读的时候也是发现，有些地方我看不是很懂，但是
it's so difficult.
我看得懂的地方，觉得哎呀真好玩啊！所以这个是很值得大家看的，是美国的一个经典小说。好，那你如果说怕看的时候很痛苦的话，也许你可以对照中文来看对照中文翻译啊。
I can't imagine the Chinese, but honestly, even if it's in Chinese, it will be challenging.
其实像这种书最好的翻译就是它要有很多的译注就是它翻译了之后，它要跟你注说它这个地方其实讲的是什么事情。
Okay, so the point of mentioning it for this article is, and this is a really important point, whenever we're talking about the environment, we seem to have this idea that we're in crisis now. We need to do this to solve the crisis. But doing this may not solve the crisis. It may cause new problems.
那当我们谈到环保的时候，我想大家都了解，环保有的时候有一个困境，就是大家都知道要环保，可是环保最常产生冲突的就是发展或者是需要。好，我们这个例如说在这个里面或者很多地方提到，你要环保，你要保护自然环境，可是问题是人口的膨胀，或者是我们对于土地的需求，你可能有时候就觉得会碰到很两难的情况。
I'll give an example. We have this idea that everybody should recycle. Recycling is good. But the way we're doing recycling is a lousy solution.
那很多人说回收很重要但是我们现在回收的做法有的时候其实不是最好的做法。
The reason is because we should not be producing the waste in the first place. It's ridiculous to produce a lot of waste, things we don't need. We use them once, we throw them away, say, oh, well, we're going to reuse it. It takes up so much energy to reprocess it. Most of it does not get recycled. And it's really true of America, who really kind of started this stuff. Very, very little waste is recycled in America. And in general, it costs more to recycle than it does to just bury it.
所以回收其实最真正的解决办法应该是减少产生垃圾，而不是说大家就尽量产生垃圾，反正可以回收。
That's right.
这第一个错误的。第二个，这回收其实是需要成本的，而且有的东西你要回收，你可能要花的要耗费的资源可能比生产它还要更多很多东西都是这个样子，所以大家不要觉得我们回收就好了，其实那不是最好的解决办法。
I was thinking about this already in the late 60s and early 70s. I was thinking it does not take that much energy to wash a bottle and use it again. Because we were still recycling bottles when I was young. It takes a lot of energy to melt something down and to create a new product with it. And a lot of plastic cannot be made into very good products. It degrades with each recycling. So it does not take much energy to just wash it and use it again. Why are we recycling when we can just wash and reuse?
所以这个其实如果你东西稍微洗一下就可以再重新用的话，你不用每次都用那种免洗的所以这个就是一个其实你可以从这个地方开始，你就可以减少这种制造的垃圾所以环保真的是会有这种问题。
I can say that at least that's something that I understood early. I mean, I was very, very young. It never made sense to me. Part of the reason is because my father was really against waste. He instilled in me the idea that we should reduce our waste as much as possible. And that had an effect on me, and that is the direction that we must go.
所以这个家庭教育也很重要这个 Karen 老师说他的父亲就告诉他们，我们要减少浪费减少制造垃圾，有什么东西可以再用的，我们就要尽量再用。
Our title again is The Catch-22 of Net Zero Emissions. Net zero means that we have emitted some bad things, but we've also done some good things to compensate so it comes back to zero. That is the goal that we have set for ourselves, but there's a problem with this goal.
好，所以 net zero 就是我们所产生的这个污染我们会做的另外一些事情来平衡掉这些我们所产生的污染。那如果说你把它真的都完美的平衡的话，那就是净值为零了。
Right, so net is 净德，净就是 means if you 就是扣掉跟那个加上一些其他的东西，那个加起来就变零了。All right, here's our article. Climate change is an ongoing and ever-present threat to the Earth and all organisms living upon it. Unchecked industrialism and the burning of fossil fuels have resulted in the creation of harmful greenhouse gases. Human greed has led to massive deforestation and clear-cutting of forests to make way for farmland. Pollution clogs our rivers, lakes, and oceans. The point of no return may be fast approaching. After decades of harmful actions, many governments and businesses are now scrambling to find ways to alleviate some of their destructive effects and reach net zero emissions. One of the ways they proposed to reduce emissions was extensive tree planting and reforestation efforts. Those plans never came to fruition, however, as the charity Oxfam issued dire warnings against them. The area needed for a tree planting project of this scale to successfully lower carbon emissions to net zero is estimated at 1.6 billion hectares, which is an area 5 times the size of India. Oxfam stated that the amount of land that would be required would intrude on the land presently needed to grow enough crops to feed the world's expanding population. Such a massive campaign of land reclamation could contribute to a global disruption in agriculture and cause food prices to rise by as much as 80% by 2050. In a world where millions of people are already going hungry, this could have disastrous results. By trying to save the planet, governments and businesses may cause many millions of people to die of starvation. This paradox perfectly illustrates the phrase, damned if you do and damned if you don't. Now, before we go on, memorize that phrase, because that means that no matter what choice you make, you're going to have a bad result, and a seriously bad result. Damned if you do and damned if you don't. Just memorize it. It is very useful, although it's a lousy situation to be in. Back to the beginning, climate change is an ongoing and ever-present threat to the earth and all organisms living upon it.
好，所以 climate change 就是气候变迁，是一个 ongoing， 就是持续在进行、不断发展的、持续存在的，而且是个 ever present， 始终存在的一个 threat， 一个威胁。对谁的威胁呢？对这个地球的威胁。然后呢，也对所有的 organisms， 生物体或者有机体 living upon it 就是指地球。所以它不对于地球还有在地球上所有的生物来讲呢，这个气候变迁都是一个持续存在、持续进行，而且始终存在的一个威胁。
Unchecked industrialism and the burning of fossil fuels have resulted in the creation of harmful greenhouse gases.
Unchecked 就是未受约束的、没有受到限制的这样的一种 industrialism 工业主义或者产业主义，就产业至上、工业至上，这种主义没有受到限制。
And when we say this, it means 失控。
所以有那种失控的感觉的哈。然后呢，还有怎么样 ？The burning of fossil fuels， 就化石燃料的这个燃烧，这些事情呢 ，have resulted in 已经造成了 the creation of 造成了制造什么东西呢？造成了这个 greenhouse gases， 就是温室气体的制造，而且这种气体是 harmful， 它是对我们有害的。
Human greed has led to massive deforestation and clear-cutting of forests to make way for farmland. This is not recent. This has been happening in human history for thousands of years. You can read about it in 孟子。
Yeah， 好，所以 human greed 人类的贪婪，greed 就是贪婪has led to 导致了 massive 大规模的 deforestation 就是大面积的砍伐森林。然后呢 clear cutting 跟这个 deforestation 的差别是 clear cutting 是通通砍掉一棵树都不剩，
砍光。
整个地区的树全部砍光然后 of forests 本来是森林，然后呢为了开发为了怎么样就通通砍掉，每一棵树都砍掉，一棵不剩。那目的你不管是大面积砍伐森林还是说完全砍伐森林呢，它的目的都是要 make way for 就是让路给或者把空间让出来给什么？给 farmland 就是农地或者耕地。那这个 make way for 这个很棒的一个片语就是你要让出那个空间让人家过去或者让出一个空间给别人使用。
Pollution clogs our rivers, lakes, and oceans.
好，那污染呢 clogs 就是堵塞阻塞或者堵塞我们的河流、我们的湖泊还有我们的海洋那 clog 这个字呢， 这个是好，我怎么学的呢？我是在洗手间学的。
Yeah, that's usually where we use it, or the kitchen.
或因为这个以前台大那个语文中心那里有很多外国学生，所以那个洗手间里面就有一个标示就是东西不要乱丢到这个马桶里面，不然会 clog 这个的 toilet 那时候我就这个字原来是这样用的，所以大家就从这 context 就学clog 就是那个意思，就是你会阻塞那个水管什么的，在这里是阻塞河流。
The point of no return may be fast approaching.
好 ，the point of no return 就是没有回头路的那个点或者事情发展到无法回头的那个地步叫做 the point of no return 那通常我们会讲的 to reach the point of no return 就到了那个地步了。那甚至于更糟糕的是 go beyond the point of no return 你已经过了那个地步了那在这里就是说，这个没有回头的地步呢，可能是快速接近中 maybe fast approaching 快速的接近我们当中。
After decades of harmful actions, many governments and businesses are now scrambling to find ways to alleviate some of their destructive effects and reach net zero emissions.
好，这个 scramble to do something， 这我就很喜欢这个 expression.
Yeah, me too.
那就是怎么样，手忙脚乱的、紧急的，赶快怎么样？好，他表示很紧急，而且感觉是手忙脚乱。你没有准备好，但是糟糕，不行了，不做不行了，赶快要这个手忙脚乱。
You'll just try anything that you happen upon. It's not organized or well thought through. You're just doing whatever you can.
好，没错，好，所以呢 ，after decades of harmful actions 在数十年这种有害的行为之后呢，很多的政府还有很多的企业businesses 现在呢都是手忙脚乱的，赶快要 find ways， 赶快要找到一些方法来 alleviate 通常是减缓痛苦或者减轻一个不好的一个状态那他们希望能够 alleviate 什么呢？他们所做出来的这种 destructive effects， destructive 就是毁灭性的或者毁坏性的effects 就是这个成果或者效果，所以他们做的一些事情呢，有一些很不好的结果或者有一些不好的效果，那他们现在希望能够 alleviate 减轻这个 destructive effects， 然后呢，他们希望能够达到这个净零排放。
One of the ways they proposed to reduce emissions was extensive tree planting and reforestation efforts.
那他们 propose 就是提出来的意思所以They proposed， 他们提出了一些方法那其中之一one of the ways they proposed， 那这个方法是要提出来干嘛呢？目的是 to reduce emissions， 要减少这个碳排放的这个方法。他们提出来方法之一呢，就是 extensive， 就大范围的 tree planting，
大规模的这个种树tree planting， 还有呢 reforestation这个就是重新造林re 就是 again。所以前面是 deforestation， 就是大规模的这个大面积的砍伐森林，那现在是要重新造林。 Those plans never came to fruition, however, as the charity Oxfam issued dire warnings against them. To come to fruition is a great expression that's worth learning.
Yeah, 好，所以 to come to fruition 就是实现或者完成的意思通常主词就是在这里是 plans， 所以这些计划呢一直没有实现。As 就是因为 the charity Oxfam 因为这个组织他们 issued 他们发出了 dire warnings dire warnings 也是一个常见的 collocation， 就是很郑重很严肃的警告，很急切那 dire 这个是像急切我们英文可以说to be in dire need of something 通常是 to be in dire need of help 就急需要帮助那个in dire need of， 或者是某些东西你说它 have dire consequences， 这也是常见的 collocation， 就是它会造成那个很严重的后果
The area needed for a tree planting project of this scale to successfully lower carbon emissions to net zero is estimated at 1.6 billion hectares, which is an area 5 times the size of India, and India is a very big country.
好，那前面这个子句呢，它的主词其实就是 the area， 那动词就是 is estimated at， 就据估计是多少呢？是16亿公顷好，那后面那个 the area needed 这个地方就是开始修饰那个 area 什么样的 area？ 好，是 the area needed 所需要的这个 area。好，为什么所需要呢？你如果是要有这样的一个 a tree planting project， 一个种树的计划，而且是 of this scale， 这种规模的种树计划所需要的土地， 好，那这种规模的种树计划的目的是干嘛呢？是要能够 successfully 成功的 lower 降低碳排放，把它降到这个净零排放啊。所以换句话说，你要能够成功的把碳排放降到净零排放，要做到这一点，你所需要的那个种树计划的那样子的一种规模，它所需要的土地据估计是16亿公顷。那 which 就是指这个16亿公顷的土地呢，是 the size of India， 印度这个大小它的5倍大。那印度是个很大的国家所以换句话说，它需要很大很大的土地。
Oxfam stated that the amount of land that would be required would intrude on the land presently needed to grow enough crops to feed the world's expanding population.
好，所以 Oxfam 他们表示 stated， 好，那 the amount of land， 那这是一个。另外一方面呢，就是动词是 would intrude on the land， 所以它这里有2种土地。一种土地是什么样？ The amount of land that would be required， 就是我们所需要的，如果要做这么大的种树计划所需要的土地的量， the amount of land that would be required， 这样的这个量呢，会 intrude on， 就是会侵犯或者侵扰，会影响到会用到 the land， 用到什么样的土地呢？用到这种什么土地？这个土地的现在状况是 presently， 目前是 needed， 我们所需要的来种植 enough crops， 足够的农作物来喂饱 the world's 这个世界的 expanding population， 就持续增加的这个人口。所以我们需要这些土地来种农作物，大家才有东西吃。那所以你如果说要这么大的土地去造林的话，那就会彼此就会互相吃到，互相侵扰。这个 presently 这个字通常我们是讲 soon 的意思，但在这里它其实指的是 at this time， 就现在我们现在需要这么多土地来种农作物，但是你如果要拿去造林的话，那就会彼此会影响到。
This does not mean that we should not engage in reforestation. Think of how good you feel when you walk through a forest. We should still do it, but we cannot rely on this to achieve net zero emission.
这不表示我们不应该种树，种树很棒，造林非常的棒只是我们没有办法靠大量那么大规模的造林来达到净零排放的这个目标。我觉得最好的办法可能是想到如何能够高效率的生产我们的食物，这可能是最重要的。
Such a massive campaign of land reclamation could contribute to a global disruption in agriculture and cause food prices to rise by as much as 80% by 2050.
好，这个 reclamation 就是开垦或者改造所以这么大的 massive， 这个规模这么大的这个运动 campaign， 你要改造土地这么大规模的这样改造土地的这个运动呢，可能会 contribute to 会造成一个全球性的 disruption， 就是干扰或者中断。在哪方面的干扰或中断呢？在农业上面的干扰或中断。然后它可能会造成食物的价格 food prices 上扬那可能会上扬怎么样？会上扬到 80%， 到2025年的时候，可能食物价格会涨到 80%。
And that's not going to be the only problem.
就是有 80% 的涨价
Right, that's not going to be the biggest problem. Prices is one thing, but actually the world, the population not being able to have enough to eat, that's another one. Note that with reclamation, it often means a repurposing. That means we take this and then we use it for something else. We also use it for 填海. So like in the Netherlands, they practice land reclamation. They fill in the ocean so they have more land to use. So it's often creating land or repurposing land for a specific purpose.
其实就是重新把这个土地做一个不同目的挪用不同这个用法的这个不同的使用方法。
In a world where millions of people are already going hungry, this could have disastrous results.
在一个已经有这个数百万人是 going hungry， 就是已经在饿肚子了这样的情况之下，这可能会有 disastrous 灾难性的结果。
By trying to save the planet, governments and businesses may cause many millions of people to die of starvation.
好，你透过试着要拯救这个星球要希望能够减少碳排放，但是在这个同时，政府跟企业可能会造成数百万的人因饥饿而死die of starvation。 starvation 就是饥饿。
This paradox perfectly illustrates the phrase, damned if you do and damned if you don't.
好，这个 paradox 就是自相矛盾的一个状况呢，很完美的 illustrate 说明了这个 phrase 这个说法，就是你如果做了，你 你就完蛋了啊！你该死，你不做也该死啊！所以到底要做还是不做呢？
就是两难。All right, our questions. 1. Which of the following statements is not true?
底下哪一个叙述为错误的？
The answer is D. Oxfam came up with the idea of planting trees to reduce greenhouse gases. That's not what they suggested.
好，答案是 D， 因为 D 说 Oxfam 他们想到了这个 idea， 就是多种树来减少这个温室气体啊，这个是错误的，他们并不是提出来的人。
2. Which of the following is closest in meaning to dire in the second paragraph?
好，底下哪一个字跟第二段里面的 dire 意义最相近？
The answer is B. Critical.
好，很关键性的，很紧急的。
那就是 be critical. And number 3, what is the paradox associated with the plans for tree planting and reforestation?
好，跟这个你种树的计划，还有这个重新造林的计划，它所牵涉到的这个自相矛盾的情况是什么呢？
The answer is D. Planting trees could lead to the death of millions of people.
答案是 D。 好，你如果种树的话，可能会造成数百万人的死亡。
So, our lesson is watch out for simple-looking solutions that don't really solve the problem.
好，所以你找到一个好像很容易解决问题的方法，其实没有办法真的解决问题。
Yeah, be careful about that. That's it for today. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
拜拜。